My name is Emily Carter. And for the first 8 years of my life, I believed every child belonged to someone. A mother, a father, a family, a home. I thought every child had a place at the dinner table, a bed with a blanket that smelled like laundry soap, and someone who would notice if they cried too quietly. I thought love was automatic. I thought parents were supposed to choose their children. All of them. Not just the easy ones, not just the favorite ones. All of them. But I learned the truth on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, standing in the hallway of our old house, holding a stuffed rabbit with one missing eye. That was the day my family split apart. And somehow, everyone found a place to go. Except me. My mother took my brother. My father took my sister. And I was left behind. I still remember the sound of the rain tapping against the living room window. I remember my mother crying, but not the kind of crying that makes you run to comfort someone. It was angry crying, sharp crying, the kind that comes with packed bags and slammed drawers. My father stood near the front door with his coat on, holding my little sister Lily's pink backpack in one hand and car keys in the other. My older brother Noah was sitting on the stairs with his baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He was 11, old enough to understand more than me, but still young enough to look scared. Lily was 5. She kept asking if we were going on vacation. Nobody answered her. I stood in the middle of it all, holding my rabbit, waiting for someone to tell me what to do. Mom kept saying, "I can't do this anymore." Dad kept saying, "You already made your choice." I did not know what choice they were talking about. I only knew that our house felt different. It felt like a place people were leaving. Then Mom walked toward Noah and said, "Come on, get your things." Noah looked at me. Just for 1 second, his eyes were red. Then he stood up and followed her. I looked at my mother and asked, "Mommy, where are we going?" She stopped. Her hand tightened around Noah's shoulder. For a moment, she looked at me like she had forgotten I was there. Then she looked away. "You're not coming with me, Emily," she said. I did not understand. So I laughed a little, because sometimes children laugh when their heart is about to break and they do not know it yet. "What do you mean?" Mom did not answer. Dad walked over to Lily and zipped her jacket. "Lily is coming with me," he said. I looked at him, then at Mom, then back at him. "What about me?" No one spoke. The rain got louder, or maybe the house just got quieter. I remember asking again, "What about me?" Mom wiped her face and said, "Emily, this is complicated." Complicated. That was the word adults used when they wanted to hide something ugly inside something polite. I looked at Noah. He was crying now, silently. I looked at Lily. She was holding Dad's hand, still confused. And I stood there, feeling something cold spread inside my chest. "Can I go with Noah?" I asked. Mom shook her head. "Not now." "Can I go with Dad?" Dad looked at the floor. "I can only take Lily." Only take Lily. As if children were luggage. As if the car had room for one suitcase and one little girl, but not me. I started crying then. Not loud at first. Just small, broken breaths. I walked toward Mom and grabbed her sleeve. "I'll be good," I said. "Please, I'll be good. I won't ask for anything." She pulled her arm away. Not hard, but enough. Enough for me to remember it forever. Then Dad opened the front door. Cold air rushed in. Mom walked out first with Noah. Dad followed with Lily. And I ran after them. Barefoot. Through the hallway. Past the umbrella stand. Past the family photos still hanging on the wall like they were lying. I reached the porch just as Mom was putting Noah in her car and Dad was buckling Lily into his truck. I screamed, "Wait, please wait!" Mom got into her car. Dad closed Lily's door. I remember Lily pressing her hand to the window. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Mom drove away first. Dad drove away second. And I stood in the rain, soaked and shaking, watching both cars disappear in opposite directions. That was the last time I saw my family for 12 years. A neighbor found me almost an hour later. Mrs. Bennett. She wrapped me in a towel and called the police. I kept telling her my parents would come back. I said they probably forgot me. I said maybe they were just angry. I said maybe they would turn around, but they didn't. The next morning, a woman in a gray coat took me to a building with white walls and a blue sign, Maplewood Children's Home. I did not know what an orphanage was. I only knew it was not my house. The first night, I slept in a room with 6 other girls. The bed was narrow. The blanket scratched my skin. A girl named Sarah whispered from the bed beside mine, "Don't cry too loud. They get annoyed." So I cried into my pillow, quietly. Because even at 8 years old, I had already learned that needing too much made people leave. Life at Maplewood was not cruel in the way movies show it. No one locked us in closets, no one starved us. But there are many ways for a child to feel unwanted. Birthdays came with sheet cake and donated toys. Christmas came with wrapped presents from strangers who wrote, "For a girl age 8" on the tag. Good behavior earned extra pudding. Bad behavior earned silence. The worst days were visiting days. Every other Sunday, children lined up near the front room when cars pulled into the gravel lot. Some parents came back. Grandparents came. Some foster families came to meet children they might choose. I hated that word. Choose. It followed me everywhere. A family chose a baby. A couple chose twins. A woman chose a quiet girl with curly hair. A man and his wife chose a boy who liked football. But nobody chose me. Not at first. Not after 1 year. Not after 2. I was too quiet, they said. Too serious. Too sad. Too old. People wanted children who smiled easily. Children who did not flinch when adults raised their voices. Children who did not ask, "Are you going to leave too?" By the time I was 12, I stopped standing near the window on visiting days. By 13, I stopped hoping. By 14, I stopped calling myself abandoned. I called myself independent. It sounded stronger. But it was just a nicer word for alone. I studied hard because books did not leave. I cleaned my side of the room because control felt like safety. I learned to braid my own hair, fix my own scraped knees, and sign my own school forms when the staff forgot. Every award ceremony, I watched other children run to parents waiting with flowers. I walked back to the bus alone. Every Thanksgiving, volunteers came and told us we were loved. Then they went home to their real families, and we stayed. When I was 16, a guidance counselor named Mr. Lewis called me into his office. He was an older man with kind eyes and coffee breath. He held my test scores in his hand and said, "Emily, you're smart, really smart." I shrugged. Smart did not feel useful when no one came looking for you. "You could get scholarships," he said. "You could go to college." College sounded like another word for escape, so I worked harder. I studied before breakfast. I studied after dinner. I studied while other kids watched TV. When sadness came, I turned it into homework. When anger came, I turned it into essays. My little sister, now a woman. She looked at me and immediately started crying. For a moment, no one moved. Then Mom said, "Emily." I stood up. She reached for me. I stepped back. Her face broke. Good, I thought. Then I hated myself for thinking it. We sat down. Nobody knew where to begin. Finally, I asked the question that had lived inside me since I was 8 years old. Why didn't anyone choose me? No one answered, so I said it again. Mom took Noah, Dad took Lily. Why was I the one left at the orphanage? My father covered his face. My mother looked down. Noah stared at the table. Lily whispered, "I didn't know. I was 5. I thought you were with Mom." I believed her. That was the hardest part. I could not blame Lily. She had been a child too. Noah finally spoke. "I asked about you," he said. "For years. Mom told me Dad had you. Dad told Lily you were with Mom. They lied to us." I turned to my parents. My voice was calm when I asked, "Is that true?" My mother sobbed. My father nodded. Something inside me went silent. Not angry, not broken, just silent. Because the truth was worse than confusion. They had not lost me. They had hidden me. From each other, from my siblings, maybe even from themselves. Dad said, "I was ashamed." Mom said, "I couldn't face what I did." I laughed once, not because it was funny, because if I did not laugh, I might fall apart. "You were ashamed?" I said. "You were ashamed, so you let me grow up thinking nobody wanted me?" Mom reached across the table. "Emily, please." "No." The word came out stronger than I expected. I pulled my hand away. "No, you do not get to touch me because you feel guilty now." The restaurant around us continued like nothing was happening. Forks clicked, coffee poured, people laughed. And at our table, my childhood sat open like a wound. My father said, "I know we don't deserve forgiveness." I looked at him. "No," I said. "You don't." He nodded, crying quietly. Mom said, "Can we start over?" I looked at her for a long time. Start over, as if childhood were a page you could tear out, as if the little girl on the porch was still waiting in the rain, as if she had not learned to sleep quietly, grow up alone, and turn pain into survival. "I can't give you my childhood back," I said. "And you can't give me the family I needed." My mother broke down, but I was not finished. "You left me at an orphanage, and then you let Noah and Lily believe I was somewhere safe. You erased me because the truth made you uncomfortable." Noah was crying now. Lily reached for my hand under the table. I let her. Her fingers squeezed mine. And for the first time that day, I felt something soften. Not for my parents, for us. The children caught in the wreckage of adult selfishness. Noah whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't find you." I turned to him. "You were a child." "So were you," he said. That sentence nearly destroyed me, because nobody had said it before. So were you. I was not difficult. I was not extra. I was not the child who did not fit. I was a child who should have been protected, a child who should have been chosen. After that day, I did not become a perfect, forgiving daughter. Life is not that simple. I did not start visiting my parents every Sunday. I did not call my mother Mom with warmth in my voice. I did not pretend that one restaurant apology could repair 22 years of absence. But I did build something with Noah and Lily. Slowly, carefully, awkwardly. Noah sent me old photos. Lily called me every Friday. We cried sometimes. We laughed sometimes. We discovered small things. Noah hated peas like I did. Lily and I both loved thunderstorms. All three of us had the same crooked smile. My parents asked for more than I could give. I gave boundaries. I gave honesty. I gave silence when I needed it. And eventually, I gave them one sentence. "I am not ready to forgive you the way you want." My mother cried. My father accepted it. Maybe that was the first decent thing he ever did for me. 1 year later, I returned to Maplewood Children's Home. Not as a child. As a guest speaker. The building had been painted yellow. The gravel lot was paved, but the front room looked the same. Same wide windows, same plastic chairs, same feeling of children waiting for someone to arrive. I stood in front of a group of girls and boys holding donated notebooks. Some looked bored, some looked suspicious, some looked like me. I told them pieces of my story. Not all of it, just enough. I told them being left behind does not mean you are worthless. I told them adults can fail you, but their failure is not your identity. I told them love should not have to be earned by being quiet, useful, or easy. Then a little girl in the front row raised her hand. She had dark braids and serious eyes. "Did anyone ever choose you?" she asked. The room went still. I looked at her. and for a second, I was 8 years old again. Standing in the rain, watching 2 cars drive away. But this time, I knew the answer. "Yes," I said softly. She leaned forward. "Who?" I smiled. "Me." Her eyebrows pulled together, so I explained. For a long time, I waited for someone to come back and choose me. But one day, I realized I had to choose myself. I had to choose to live, to grow, to heal, to believe I was worth loving, even before anyone else proved it. The little girl looked down at her notebook. I said, and later, I found people who chose me too. Friends, my brother, my sister, people who stayed, but the first choice that saved me was mine. After the talk, that little girl hugged me. She held on tight, the way children do when they are trying not to ask for too much. I hugged her, back tighter. And I whispered, "You matter," because someone should have whispered that to me. That night, I went home and opened a box I had kept in my closet for years. Inside was the stuffed rabbit, old, faded, still missing one eye. I had carried it from my childhood home to Maplewood, from Maplewood to college, from college to every apartment after. I used to think it was proof of what I lost. But now, holding it in my hands, I realized it was proof that I survived. The little girl who stood in the rain did not disappear. She grew up. She fought back. She built a life. She became the person she needed. My mother took my brother. My father took my sister. And nobody chose me. But that was not the end of my story. Because years later, I learned something they should have taught me from the beginning. Being unwanted by the wrong people does not make you unworthy of love. Being abandoned does not mean you are broken. Being left behind does not mean you cannot rise. Sometimes the family that loses you is not the family that defines you. Sometimes healing begins the day you stop asking why they didn't choose you and start choosing yourself. So if you have ever felt forgotten, if you have ever wondered why people left, if you have ever been the one nobody picked, please hear me. You are not the mistake. You are not the burden. You are not the child they failed to love. You are still here. And that means your story is not over. Maybe they did not choose you, but you can choose you. You can choose healing. You can choose peace. You can choose a future that does not look like your past. And one day, when you look back at the place where they left you, you may finally understand. They walked away, but you survived, and that survival became your strength.